This is every single fight to make next after UFC 295, Prochazka versus Pereira. I have all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where their next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll slowly reveal those opponents one by one as the video goes on and place them where they belong on the screen. Let's start straight away with the main event. Alex Pereira finishes Yuri Prochazka via second round left hook TKO. 2 follow-up shots that then had a bit of controversy to it. Watching it back, especially seeing as Yuri is being so noble and saying that it was a good stoppage and he did go out for a second, I'm okay with it. We can move on. We need to move on anyway. If we just end up talking about the stoppage all the time, we're not going to give the value to that fight and the finish that it deserves. Alex Pereira's next opponent, I've seen a lot of people saying Israel Adesanya 3 at light heavyweight. Even Alex Pereira said, "Hey, Adesanya, come to daddy," afterwards on the post-fight interview in the octagon. So he made the call out, but I reckon it's Jamal Hill next. Israel Adesanya is not the champion in the middleweight division. Do I see a world down the line where if Israel Adesanya gets back the middleweight world championship and Alex Pereira is still the light heavyweight champion, they make that matchup between each other and do a super fight? Yes, I do see that happening eventually. I just don't see them giving Israel Adesanya a title shot up a division without even having to fight in that division and winning that division. Like, technically, he has a loss to Jan Blachowicz, who's now just a top 5 ranked contender in that division. So, I feel like Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill is the fight to make. Listen, they told Yuri to vacate the belt when he got injured. Said they'd give him a title shot when he came back. They upheld their promise to Yuri Prochazka. They said they'd give Jamal Hill a title shot if he vacated the belt and let the division move on after he got his injury. I'm assuming they're going to uphold their promise to him as well. Plus, Dana White said in the post-fight interview that you don't do Pereira Adesanya 3. Instead, you do Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira. And you know what? I don't mind this. Because a lot of people are saying, well, let's just make it now. Him versus Adesanya. Adesanya said he wants time off. And that time off is not going to be bulking up to light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Maybe it will be. Maybe that'll be his move. I reckon he wants to get the middleweight title back first, especially if Dricus wins it and Adesanya's just a top contender sitting there. I can see the UFC just doing Dricus versus Adesanya in the middle of next year, International Fight Week. That would be the move. But Pereira Jamal Hill is the move to make. Jamal Hill deserves it. As much as, you know, he didn't beat the man who beat the man in Yuri to get his belt, he beat Glover way better than Yuri did. And I think he's pretty dangerous for Pereira. Do I think Pereira would win? I'm leaning that way right now, especially because I don't like these guys coming back after injuries, right back into title fights. But this is the fight to make. Jamal Hill earned it. And his win over Johnny Walker by first round KO has aged very, very well. Seeing as, you know, before we were saying, well, he hasn't beat any top dudes other than Glover. Now, you can't really say that because Walker's been on a tear and Jamal Hill smoked him in 1 round. So, Pereira versus Hill. We move on to the loser of the main event, Yuri Prochazka. Also, with Pereira versus Hill, you can do this soon. You don't have to wait that long for this. I feel like this could knock O'Malley's top spot out of the way in March. Not in April. I don't think they're going to put any title fights in April because it's a McGregor card and they don't want to share pay-per-view with other champions on the card that aren't bringing in the McGregor numbers. Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill, main event of Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera 2. I don't mind that. I think that would be good, and I can expect Alex Pereira to make somewhat of a quick turnaround, so I'll look forward to that. And plus, there's vengeance. He beat Glover. You know what I mean? They had that face-off in the octagon before. That'll be used to sell the fight. Yuri Prochazka lost in the main event to Alex Pereira. Got TKO'd, so I want to see him take a little bit of time off. But because he's been so inactive, I'm not looking for him to take 6 months off here after this loss. You know what I mean? I don't need to see Yuri 6 months off. Going back out there in like July or something like that, even longer. I feel like May, even though that is 6 months, it won't be a title fight actually, so it can be whenever. When Jan Blachowicz fights Alexander Rakic in January, the winner of that should be next for Yuri Prochazka. Him and Rakic actually had some heated beef at one point in their career. True story. You can look into it. They were really going at each other. Rakic mainly at Yuri. And they were trash talking each other and wanted to do like a European showdown for the title, but it never ended up happening because of Rakic's performance against Jan Blachowicz, where he got injured. They're doing the rematch, the winner of Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic, main event of a fight night card in Europe. Wherever they want to do it in Europe, they can do it. I just think it should be done maybe in Poland, if it's Jan Blachowicz especially. Do a Poland card, April, fight night card. Don't leave Yuri out too long, 5 months. See if you can get the winner of Blachowicz-Rakic to make a quick turnaround for him. That's the move. I should bring out Jan Blachowicz because I think he will win that matchup with Alexander Rakic in January. And if he does, Yuri Prochazka versus Jan Blachowicz, UFC Fight Night card in Poland. You've got Rebecki, who I'll find a matchup for in a moment. You've got Gamrot as well. There's so many big Polish names in MMA. There's so many prospects now. There's enough to do a card over there. If there's enough to do cards elsewhere in the world where you have like one person from that country on the card. Like Canada. You know what I mean? We move on. Co-main event. Tom Aspinall beats Sergey Pavlovich by first round KO. I'm not tired of saying that yet. Nowhere near tired of saying that. Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall ended in a first round KO for Tom Aspinall. He finishes Sergey Pavlovich in a round with a brutal KO. I think next up for Tom Aspinall is, I've seen a lot of people saying, you know, he's going to have to end up waiting and maybe be a backup opponent for Miocic versus Jones. And even Dana said in a post-fight interview that he wants to still make Stipe versus Jones. And no, you don't do that matchup. You do Stipe versus Jones. No, you don't. We want Tom Aspinall to beat Jones. Why are we letting Jones get out of his career with no repercussion? Every single time Dana White hears someone's retiring, he gives them a tough matchup. Like, oh, you're thinking of getting out of there? Here's sourced up Johnny Hendricks, GSP. You know what I mean? They always try and find a really tough matchup to give these champions before they leave so they can have a turnover and have a new champion. That's what they always do. But now with John Jones, because he's such a terrible person and failed 5 PED tests, cancelled UFC events, all of a sudden it's no, we need to give him a nice send-off. Forget it. Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic should be made for May, March, whenever you want to do it. That's when it should be made. Massive fight in the heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall, Stipe Miocic. Forget Stipe sitting on the sideline for another 8 months until John Jones is healthy. Aspinall just won without taking any damage. I'm not trying to see him wait until we see if Jones Miocic can happen in October of next year or September of next year before we get an answer on what Tom Aspinall's up to next. That's going to kill all of his hype. Do him versus Stipe Miocic in April, March, June, May, any of those months, and the winner can fight John Jones in September of next year. We're not waiting around for John Jones right now. He ain't getting out of this heavyweight division without going across Aspinall first, and we're going to make sure of that. Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic. Make it for the undisputed title. Strip Jones if he can't fight in time. Interim defending his belt, make it undisputed. The winner gets John Jones for his return fight as a champion. More incentive for Stipe to take that because he'll get pay-per-view shares. I think it works out for everyone. And Jones gets a real hyped-up matchup because if Aspinall wins, that's a real dangerous matchup for him. And if Stipe beats Aspinall, all of a sudden, everyone's taking Stipe versus Jones seriously, which they aren't right now because it's a sad fight that shouldn't happen. Stipe's 50. Co-main event loser, Sergey Pavlovich. Needs some time. Not too much time off though, in my opinion. Not too much time off. And if they are going to go to Europe in April, is my mindset. Main event, Yuri Prochazka versus Jan Blachowicz if he gets past Rakic. Co-main event, I know they're training partners, but it's the only matchup I can think of making. Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. I actually looked up them talking about each other. And they said if it comes down to it, they will fight. They've both said that on record. I looked it up, found some headlines of them saying, listen, if it comes down to it and we're both top contenders and it's a contender matchup or a title fight, we'll be happy to fight each other. They've both said that about each other. So, fair enough, when they're both coming up, they don't have to fight each other. They're not going to wait for Pavlovich Garn. I think Garn's going to take a fight relatively soon. So I don't think that time-wise works out too well. And plus, I don't want to see Pavlovich fight Garn after coming off a KO loss. It would be a good matchup. I just don't think schedule-wise it works out that way. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see Garn out until May or April of next year. I want to see Garn fighting in February. You know what I mean? Or March. Paris card. Make it happen. Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov. Sergey's beaten Curtis Blades. He's can't fight Garn, in my opinion, because of scheduling issues that come from him being knocked out. I don't want to see Pavlovich back in there in 4 months. Give him at least 5 until April. Beat Curtis Blades. Not going to fight Jailton. I think Jailton will be fighting Cyril Garn in Paris. I think that's the move they're going to make. And he's also beaten Taito Ivasa, Derek Lewis. Like, there's not really anyone for him. So I think Sergey Pavlovich versus Volkov is the fight that makes sense. Co-main event of UFC Fight Night Poland. Make that happen. UFC Fight Night Poland. Yuri Prochazka, Jan Blachowicz main event. Pavlovich Volkov co-main event. Sprinkle some other Polish fighters on the card. Gamrot don't even have to be on there. But if he is, like let's say he's coming off a loss or he fought Oliveira and lost in some January fight or something along those lines, then we can talk about Gamrot being on the card. And there's others as well. But that's the matchup I want to see. There's no one else. And Volkov's on a 3-fight win streak. Rosenstruik, Tuivasa, and Tybura, I'm pretty sure. So those are really good wins. 3 in a row. Let's give him a jump up. We move on. Benoit Saint-Denis got a big win against Matt Frevola. Amazing win. I'll be on his Instagram compilation tomorrow, picking against him. Benoit Saint-Denis, amazing win. Head kick KO. Hear me out. Drew Dober. I know Drew Dober lost to Matt Frevola, and this may be seen as like him not getting a jump up after beating Matt Frevola. Hear me out. Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano is going to be getting made soon. I really think that. Moicano's been saying it for ages on his stream that that's his next opponent, and it makes sense to do next, timing-wise for them. Renato Moicano, Jalen Turner. Dan Hooker's fighting Bobby Green. The winner of that is not going to be looking to fight Benoit Saint-Denis. They're probably going to get Fiziev when he comes back. Speaking of him, Fiziev's injured. He ain't going to be back anytime soon. I'm not having Benoit Saint-Denis wait out for that long. We've got other opponents. Frevola just lost. Who else is at lightweight right now? I think I've covered just outside the top 10, to be honest with you. Arman's not going to take the fight with Benoit. Arman's probably looking for like a Dariush fight. He's got the Dariush fight booked. There's just everyone booked right now. And I don't want to see Benoit Saint-Denis wait for a winner of this or wait for a winner of that. And we don't end up seeing him until June. Nightmare. Just had a first round KO. Drew Dober also just had a first round KO. Both guys are looking to stay active. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Drew Dober. UFC Fight Night Paris. February. Book it. Let's get it booked. Couple weeks Holloway for Benoit Saint-Denis. Dober recover a little bit more after his training camp. Get him back in there. Drew Dober, Benoit Saint-Denis. Great scrap. UFC Fight Night Paris. That could be the co-main event of Cyril Garn versus Jailton Almeida. And it will be considered a great card, in my honest opinion. That would be considered a great card. I love that matchup, Benoit Saint-Denis, Drew Dober. I know Dober lost to Frevola and Benoit just beat him. But I think I think he should stay active. Stay active. Get back in there in February, get paid, and then he's like number 11 ranked at lightweight, number 12 ranked at lightweight, and he can start looking for these number 7, number 8 guys coming off a loss to really jump him up the rankings, rather than waiting until July for all of these other matchups to play out first. Get back in there, fight Drew Dober. We move on. Diego Lopez got a big win against Pat Sabatini. Anyone who picked Sabatini there, the odds makers were crazy. Let me speed through these. I'm taking a bit of a long time. Diego Lopez, amazing win, TKO, light work, getting back in there against Sadiq Yusuff, who is going to need a little bit of time off, but he's already had like a month off since the Edson Barboza fight. I'm not saying Diego Lopez should be getting back in there too soon, but I'm saying 4 months off for Diego Lopez. March, maybe even the UFC 300 prelims in April. Diego Lopez, Sadiq Yusuff. In no world should Diego be taking more than 5 months off after that TKO. So I'm thinking March. On the O'Malley card, maybe. Maybe they even get Grasso on that O'Malley card as the co-main event. Who knows? That way they can have Lopez on there, have some Mexican presence on that card. Diego Lopez, Sadiq Yusuff, March pay-per-view. prelim, headliner, co-main event position. If it's a weak card, I guess you can put it on the main card because Lopez is being known and Sadiq just had a war, so he's marketable. Make it happen. Diego Lopez, Sadiq Yusuff, that's the fight to make in my opinion. We move on. Up the card, Mackenzie Dern should fight Lupita Godinez. I think she should fight Lupita Godinez. Lupita just beat Tabitha Ricci, who was number 10. She was number 14, I believe. She's now going to move up to around that 10 to 11 range. Mackenzie Dern was number 7 or 8, lost to Jessica Andrade. She's going to slip down to number 9. I think this is the matchup you make. They're both decently big names. Give Mackenzie Dern a little bit of time off, but say, hey, Lupita, stay inactive for a bit. I know you want to be active and fight often, but we've got a matchup for you up the rankings if you don't stay active and actually wait for this matchup. I think this is a UFC 300 type fight. Mackenzie Dern, Lupita Godinez, female fight on the prelims. Bunch of casual fans are going to be tuning in. Dern's got good tits and ass. It just makes sense promotion-wise, in my opinion. Dern, Lupita Godinez. Mateus Rebecki. Huge win over Roosevelt Roberts. I say huge win. It was going to happen. And this is my problem with Mateus Rebecki. I'm not going to give him a huge jump up the rankings here. Just a heads up. Not going to give him a huge jump up the rankings like people might expect because he was calling for a ranked opponent. He ain't beat anyone good. You know, Loic Radzhabov's all right, but is he that good? Not really. He's all right. Good win for Rebecki, but he didn't have status in the UFC lightweight division anywhere. You know what I mean? Roosevelt Roberts, another win of Mateus Rebecki. There's another win that was really low level as well. Mateus Rebecki should be looking to fight Nasrat Haqparast. Nasrat just fought, went to war with Quinones, I think. Landon Quinones, a guy from the Contender Series, I think. Or no, the Ultimate Fighter, that's the guy. Went to war with him about a month or two ago. Gonna need some recovery from that. I think Poland in April. UFC Fight Night Poland. Do it. Main event, Yuri Jan Blachowicz. Co-main event, Pavlovich Volkov. Rebecki versus Nasrat is a great fight to add to that card. Amazing fight. You can even do Gamrot versus someone as the feature fight or the co-main event, and then Pavlovich Volkov as the feature fight. You could do a sick card for Central Europe and actually go there for once. You know what I mean? They never go there and they have all this talent from there, but then they're like, we got to go to Canada. There's Mike Mallet and no one else. Sorry. Jared Gordon got a big win against Mark Madsen. Easy win, though. Mark Madsen's terrible. Great KO. Got a bit of hype. Quick turnaround is what I'm looking for. Now, if Pimlet loses to Tony Ferguson in December, you 100,000,000% do Jared Gordon, Paddy Pimlet 2 at UFC 300. That is what you do. The rematch, Pimlet's chance to recover himself and prove the doubters wrong about the first fight. And if he loses, then that's it. He's washed. It's over. He loses all hype. There's something on the line there. Do the rematch with him and Jared Gordon if Pimlet loses to Ferguson. I don't think Pimlet loses. I think he's too strong, and I think he'll ragdoll Ferguson with the wrestling. Honestly, my opinion. He's a big dude and a strong dude for lightweight. Jared Gordon, Paddy Pimlet 2 if he loses. But seeing as Jared Gordon won, stay active, get back in there, fight against Elves Brener. That's the matchup in my opinion. Neither of them are really in the position to start calling for ranked opponents, but they're in a position where if they win, they might take that number 15 spot against each other. Jared Gordon, Elves Brener, similar schedules, both coming off first round KOs. March, February, get it booked. Quick turnarounds, no wasting time. Let's get these guys paid. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye.